I feel it's also an opportunity to acknowledge that unemployment is also like a period in life where you are needed because there is enough capital and there is a job that needs to be done. Of course, when you try to make things evolve, you have a lot of criticism, you take a lot of risk. But at the end of the day, if it's what you believe in, you can try, you can fail. But at the end of the day, you don't have much to lose.
Welcome to the Rozain Play podcast. I am Sophie Vaux, your host and leadership coach. In the show, my wonderful co-host and I sit down with influential and diverse leaders from the gaming industry to hear about their leadership journey. Not the well-polished stories, but the real stories. The up and down, the breakthrough, and the failures. Or should we rather say learnings? Each episode will transport you into a magical space of vulnerability with our guest. And together, you'll be reminded that no matter how hard it is, you are not alone in this journey and find the courage to keep going. Come and join the ride. Let's begin. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Rozain Play, and I'm so delighted to have today again, because for the ones who follow long enough, I had Claire Rozain on the podcast, and she was interviewing me, and I realized, wow, I actually did not interview her back, although I thought I did because we were having just a normal conversation. And because she's been doing so many interesting things, probably the past 2 years, as far as I can remember, I thought it's time to talk to Claire and have her learnings, have her changes. And in a funny way, we were probably on parallel track where I was also on my entrepreneurial journey doing different things, interesting things. And we gathered today to exchange notes, share the learnings. So before we start, because maybe some of you know about Claire, she's been very visible on LinkedIn and any other channels, doing a lot of community work, a lot of events as well, not only in the UA space, but wholesomeness, loves in the community of gaming and also out of gaming. Claire, would you mind to share a quick background? I know you have a lot maybe to share about what you've done, but maybe your first phase that led you to gaming and UA, because that's where we've met.
Yes, so thank you, Sophie, for having me. I think your podcast is for sure one that I've listened completely, which is really rare. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So from my experience and what I did, actually, I started into games, into apprenticeship. So in France, we have a way to pay your studies where you are kind of, working in companies, and at the same time, you are also at the university, which is the path I decided to have. I joined one of the largest dating companies at this time, which is Match Group, where I was working on dating for all the European markets. So I'm more on the app side of things. And I had the opportunity finally to move to London. And from there, I think the things really accelerated because I was working for a big corporation. We made the company a $1 billion company. And over the years now, I collaborated with more than 40 apps and games and AI companies all around the world, which was really gratifying for me. That taught me a lot about myself and others as well, which is something I will always be thankful, to be honest. And I eventually ended up helping companies to grow with performance marketing, but also creative strategy and user acquisition.
And so among the stops, because this is also where we met, but overlapped a little bit, you worked at Gameloft as well. I did, not at the same time. And at Rovio, living in Finland, I did as well, but not at the same time.
Yes, and I remember watching all your Confluence at Rovio, and I was like, why Sophie is not there? I would feel so much better if she was there. And I worked on some games, Angry Birds Match that you worked on. And I've been so impressed. This game at the time was still working so well from an organic point of view. And I think, organic success is maybe something you built once in a life. But in order to build this, you need to have people believing in what they do. And you need to have people, that get this entrepreneur vision that will be able to understand the player, which for me is something you did. So I'm glad I had access to those Confluence pages so I can see, all the effort you've put into it. And I remember watching the slides or watching the documentation you left. And I think this show all the involvement you had into it. And it show a lot about, how to draft a success, basically.
Yeah. The work we do is not only the work we do now, it's the work we leave behind. And yeah, that hopefully is going to be helpful for others. Yeah, at that time, I remember that was joining the Puzzle Studio that was growing straight from Muga. So it was a bet also to join Angry Birds, where nobody knew, like, are they doing puzzle games as well? Some people asked me, like, really? Angry Birds and other match 3? Weird, but they made their way. And when I was there also, which shifted quite a lot the company direction, trajectory, culture, going public. That was also a big one. So that was very interesting to witness that. But yeah, that was a time when I was in transition and you arrived. You had also, I have to say, tremendous career in UA, big companies, different places. Like you worked in France, the UK, London, in Finland, and remote, like a bit of like digital nomad lifestyle. And I'm very impressed by this career because when I look at the history, this is something I would see for, I don't know, profiles that are 30, 40s, and when you told me your age, like you were not even 30s, like, what? Okay, wow. Okay, we are on a different speed here. And this is very inspiring for what I call the new our generation. I mean, we don't have such a big gap, but I think there's something to acknowledge, like there's something very inspiring I see with women even I coach. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. So it makes almost a decade of difference. But oh my God, that level of energy and just, I don't know, it's like fiercelessness. I'm very inspired because in my late 20s, I can tell you, I was like still toe tipping on some things, exploring, but everything open in my early 30s. So my question to you, because I also see correlation when we see the result of a person on how they evolved in life. So what in your teenagehood led you to, okay, I'm going to go apprenticeship. I'm going to go work for these big companies. I'm going to go abroad. What was the support system or thing that inspired you to think, why not me? Because usually, I'm telling you, for women, they think it's not for me. So what's your story, Claire?
Yeah, so I think, I've been incredibly lucky in life. I mean, I had a really bad experience as a woman when I was traveling in Greece in my younger age, and I could have died. And I think it's made me believe and acknowledge that life is just what you make out of it. Like, like one day by the other, it can end. And the reality of really calm way and path is really artificial, the same way, like having a job like forever, like our parents did, for instance, is really artificial. We are seeing a lot of layoff and I feel really sorry for people, but I feel it's also an opportunity to acknowledge that unemployment is also like a period in life where you are needed because there is enough capital and there is a job that needs to be done. Of course, when you try to make things evolve, you have a lot of criticism, you take a lot of risk, you can sometimes affect yourself, but at the end of the day, if it's what you believe in, I think because I didn't die, there is a reason for this and I should at least try. And you can try, you can fail, but at the end of the day, like you don't have much to lose. Like as soon as, you take care of your family, you make sure you have a good circle around you. Like at the end of the day, I'm experimenting a lot, but now I reach also financial security, which was something I never felt I would get. So, I mean, I'm not taking as much risk as before because now I have this, but I'm happy to be able to help others taking those risks. One of the initiatives I'm doing with my business is now to kind of sponsor a festival in France that is done only by women, that is going to be half street art, and so half street art artists and half techno music. Some book authors are going to come. So if I wouldn't have taken those risks, I wouldn't have been able as well to help those people. And I mean, it's such an achievement. I'm really happy about it.
Wow. There's a lot there. Very, very inspiring, Claire. And no, we didn't have a chance to discuss in that depth the background story because it matters. And I'm so glad that we do it on the podcast for others also to understand because, LinkedIn is an interesting place where it's like the VC game. Everyone is judging each other by the cover, and then you can have a post and then the revenues or whatever. But there's so much more to see about what made the person achieve that, right? And what I'm hearing through what you shared, you had an incident quite big, traumatic in your life, where it was very present, real that you could die. And, this is something I've contemplated in my own growth as well, where when you have touched death so closely, and for the listeners, don't be taken down by the conversation because I think it's very healthy actually to look at death because when you approach death so closely, then you also approach life very much. So this is the paradox. When you are close to death, you are very close to very alive. You're very alive and you live fully. If I have something to say about how I observed you from far, from close, you're a person full of life. You chosen life. And you do it in multiple ways in what you do, what you've experimented. And I love your post on LinkedIn. It's very you in the sense that, you don't care of taking risk, being criticized. You do you express yourself. And I think this is very inspiring for many people out there. And I'm not just saying women, but many women are following your work, which is amazing to see, is the courage to be yourself because this is the only way. And that's the choice you've made and you keep doing that.
I mean, Sophie, from you, it means the world, honestly. Like even before you knew me, I knew you. I was watching your team building, your work, everything. And it means a lot, and I'm really grateful of what you say. So thank you for this. It's,
yeah.
I will listen this podcast forever.
Yeah, it's your archive. It's your archive and it's your life offering, Sometimes we go back to our own words and we're like, wow, that was me at that time. So for me, where you are, you're just at the beginning of a journey of your life. There are many years that if you live every decade like you've done, wow, I want to talk to you in 5 years to see where you are because I don't know where you will be. But this is what is very inspiring because that's the life and privilege we have. We talked about privilege and then what do we do with our time? So the attitude also where, in employment, you talked about it. This is real. I think I see right now in the industry, especially gaming industry, but tech, people are caught by surprise. Like, oh my God, I never thought what I would do if I didn't have a job, if I were not employed. Who am I if I'm not employed? So it starts from that foundation even before you can start to do something. So it's a very painful moment for many workers. It is also very inspiring to see others with the same cards, similar cards, but have a different attitude to say, well, here you have a choice. You're not completely a victim. And you also write a lot about that. So something I want to touch on is the transition from employment where you, I don't know, at least when I look at just more the CV part, it looks like you've learned enough. You've gone through corporate, you've gone through the wheel several times. You see, okay, there's maybe not more for me to grow. What was that moment where you've decided it's enough? I'm going to go build my own things. Especially you did it before there was all the waves of layoff, a bit at the same time as me, but for different reasons. So I'm very curious, what made you commit to that path?
To be totally transparent with you, I had a really bad human experience. I think in corporate setting, it can be really, really challenging at some point. And I really needed this freedom, flexibility, and dignity to say, I want to choose what I work on, who I work on. That's why I realized at the end of the day, I don't need to work harder. I just need to work smarter with people I believe in. I believe in the project. I'm not here to compete with anyone. And this will never be the case, independent or in corporation setting. I have my own clarity and courage. And, like I worked since I'm 18. I'm 13 now. I have full confidence in my skills. I mean, it can seem to be a bit like overselling, but I mean, I made some company cash flow. I made some company became a $1 billion company. So at some point, why should I work with others? And that has been a really, really difficult path, to be honest, because as a woman, I was really faced to 100% of my clients being men. And I think my attitude had to switch from really feminine, I think, kind of place where, you want to help, you want to assist, and so on, where you need to be more in the place where you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know, but you just make people deal also with the context that you have, which is something I did. I think I went through several phases. Like, for instance, how do I do the good pricing? How do I sell myself correctly? And it has been a journey. At the end of the day, a good journey, because the business went really well, too well. And now I just don't want to accept as much as I did before. But I think it's a journey of self-discovery and support as well. I've been really lucky, like I remember, Sophie, we had those calls. We spoke about like the partner we work with, how it works. And with some other women as well, starting consulting, I'm doing it. They are doing it as well. So it's challenging to be working for yourself. It's also not knowing how the next month is going to look like. But ultimately, it's something that gives you the freedom as well to do what you want to do, which is something I get a lot of respect from. And, like there is a lot of women consultants as well supporting each other. I think they are incredible. They don't all have the time to do personal branding. They have never been shutting the door and saying, I'm not going to invite you to my event. I saw Anna, for instance, at her, from Aperture in her event in London. She told me, hey, come. And same for other women, like, hey, let's do a meeting like with Sarah, with Julie. I saw her in PGC London. So, I think there is a support, but there is, this lack of confidence of women trusting themselves. And I think once you trust yourself, you're not competition with anyone because everyone is so different. So I think when you start your own business, first trust yourself. Stop this corporation toxicity of saying I'm competing with this person. I need to have a growth path. Like all of this is so artificial. Like you have this because you are in a business. They want to retain you. They want to make you think about the progression long term. But at the end of the day, your salary is always going to be capped. You're paid for a service and you are not going to be paid more than the service you deliver. When the CEO, at some point, they are capped. So ultimately, it's the best thing that happened to me in terms of financial freedom and things like this. After, in terms of stability, confidence, it's a lot of work. And that's where also you need to invest in yourself. And that's where I also decided, Sophie, to work with you, with Rozain. And I think more people should actually do it because it's the most important thing that they can do. I mean, me, I don't need a psychologist. I need someone that is a coach, that is linked in the business in order to understand if I'm totally losing sight or not. And that gives me, like a really authentic feedback about where I am, what I'm doing, and also listening, because it's also a really lonely work, I think, to work for yourself. That's why you need to have your family around. And you see it with the biggest influencer from user acquisition or even growth marketing, John, for instance. They all have a family, they all have a support, and this is really important.
Yeah. I'm very much aligned with what you shared. And, although we had a different journey, I think the conclusion are quite similar. So a few things I wanted to reciprocate on, which is also the challenge for many workers employed. Until you get out of a bubble, you realize, okay, yeah, indeed you are capped, you're limited, your growth is limited, and also you're not safe. So I think something big changed where it used to be that a company is a safe place, and we know now it's not. I'm not anti-corporate here, so just as a disclaimer for people who decide to be in corporate, but it's just being aware of what you sign up for. The skills that people who work in corporate are developing, it's the skills to be a good employee in the system. So that's where the competition comes in. You want to appear good, so you have a promotion or you have that and this, and you have responsibilities. But it's a play that is not very useful when you become an entrepreneur. It's not useful at all. So I think it's more for people to reflect the skills you are developing in your company. And it's much bigger reflection for the company itself. But for employees, is this a skill that will help you grow when you're not in that company? Because being political, for example, it's a great skill in company. And probably I know some employees that are destined to stay in corporate because they have developed so well those skills, or in politics. But it's not very helpful to be that as an entrepreneur. And same comes from learning and growth. So there's something to say for companies. I think that will also be a challenge with work. How do they meet in the market the people as employees with what they need? Because paying someone for a specific job, there's more loss on the employee side. You don't have the security, you develop skills like personal branding. Some companies prevent you from developing your brand outside of the company. But when you let go, you have 3 months to figure it out. You're the one losing as an employee. So I think that's what's so broken in those times about what companies are about. And as they're switching anyway for more software, AI, technology solutions, I think company will need a makeover, the new ones, if they want to work with people and have people at the center of what that means to employ people, and not this legacy that we have that we see is not really working.
Yeah, I mean, it's not on the advantage of a company, except if you work in business development. I think business development for corporation is maybe what will be the most useful for you if then, you want to do your business. But there is some people, like it has been really violent what corporations are telling them. Like, I have a friend, she's a woman. She worked a lot to do public speaking. She even took some classes, and her manager told her, why are you speaking? Like, who are you? And I feel it's really violent to say to someone, who are you? I mean, I'm a human being. I have an opinion. If I want to say something, I mean, she has put so much effort doing it. And when she does it, she's just like belittled by someone that is not even doing it. So not knowing what is the effort it takes. Like we all have things to say, to tell, and I really encourage you to do it, because we see also our work is evolving nowadays, especially with AI. And I mean, jobs are going to change. Even the way now you get money is going to change. The kind of contract you are going to have is going to change. Where the money is from is changing as well. So I think it's a lot of things to think about, take into consideration and evolve. I mean, I'm not saying everyone should be a consultant, but at least understand what are your own terms and where are your best interests, I think is really important.
Good reminder. So here for listeners, employees, time for reflection. Companies, much bigger stories, but they will adjust later in the second phase. You've built multiple businesses since I've known you and last time we talked. So there was the company in Africa, the studio you've built, your consultant company. Recently, you announced also building a sister sound affair. So before we get to the new venture, I'm curious about the different learnings of your different venture, because it's always about what you like, how you like to work, and what worked, what didn't work.
Yes, so I have a really systematic way to create a business is usually where I see gap. So my first community, Rozain Society, I saw a big gap in knowledge sharing and also education toward people outside of gaming, for instance, not sharing to others, but a lot of people wanted to come in. So I created the community. So my first one was first gap was education, gaming, content, youth wave games that I did in Africa. So I had one co-founder where we did one Ludo games, and at the end of the day, I think, like the co-founder things is you need to totally match or it doesn't work. And I learned actually I'm much better when I'm alone, which is something people, they don't believe in. I totally believe in. I'm shocked some accelerators are pushing people to work together when at the end of the day, some people, they are not good just having a co-founder, or you don't always meet the good person. And the third one, so Sister Sound Affair, I see a big gap into women content, community and security, and the experience of entertainment. I saw several documentary, and I had myself a bad experience in a music festival in France, where as a woman, I felt really unsafe, and a lot of women actually were really unsafe. Even one of the biggest miss, she said she was raped in a festival. So I saw a gap there, and also an opportunity to create something. So I'm starting slowly also to to kind of gather feedback from people that are in this reality. I'm speaking to a lot of artists, a lot of women as well, to get their feedback and understand what would be helpful for them. But I'm also really excited about the femtech between my studio in Africa, where I had a game produced in Benin, and also Sister Sound. I also thought about cosmetic, about intimate care and things like this. Because I think the femtech is a big market that is tackled now by men, which I find really. I mean, I get my period every month, and it's a man doing a product about this. I mean, I don't have any issue with men. I'm like, oh, is it possible? So where did this happen? And then you go deeper, you understand that less than 5% of the capital in the femtech is given actually to women who actually know their stuff. And you see, it's not only in this, it's also, in movies, like the women character are crafted by men. I mean, you never end. So I'm like, what a big gap and what a big opportunity at the same time. So any woman, I think, that get an idea, please reach out to me. I mean, if I can support you, I want to help you. I want to do anything, because at some point, like, it needs to be a woman also crafting a journey for women. And I'm not saying men can't understand women, but I think at some point as well, like, it's important to get a bit of women CEO doing stuff for women. I mean, I think it's, we speak a lot about cultural appropriation, but for me, I mean, it is what it is. But for me, as an investor, I would have been biased and totally have invested more on a woman. But it seems like it's the case, right?
I love it that that way of approaching business, and this is also for the ones asking themselves, what should I start? With a gap. As an entrepreneur, you identify with a gap, and a gap that you care about, right? Because this is important as well, the energy you're going to put into it. And you've been successful I've seen very quickly building that community. And for the context, a Rozain event in Barcelona, and it was such a lovely crowd. It was an event where I didn't have to have like anxiety in my guts, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to pretend. I was like, I know I'm going to be just, by myself. And I was. So thank you so much for creating such a wonderful community, because it matters. It's not just about the number. It's about the people that you bring together. And I made amazing connections. I think that's the future, by the way, of when we can create a website, an app, and add creatives like this in seconds. Good luck creating a community that sticks in seconds. I don't think that's going to happen, because human connection take time, trust, and irrationality, where all those things, and it needs a craft, a human craft. And you've done it, and you're doing it.
I mean, Sophie, I hope next year we see you again. It will be a success if you're back again. But, like, everyone loved so much your content, what you shared and what you experienced. And to be in my community, they need also to bear with me. So I think if you support me, at some point you can support anyone. But I think it's beautiful people, and I can't wait you also to meet even more other people that couldn't come, because there is so many beautiful people, to be honest. And we were speaking before about finding your people, and I totally agree with you. Like like where I'm so frustrated about list, for instance, only with one kind of profile of top influencer and things like this, it's because I've evolved in this way where I always found so many amazing people that are so different from me, like men, women, Black people, white people, like Asian people, like, I mean, the community is from, I mean, you saw it, it's from really different people, really diverse. And like, they meet each other, they love each other, and they bring a lot to each other as well. So people get this gift someday to also discover this, because I think when you start, you never end,
Yeah,
So.
I totally relate to it in also the network community work that I've also created, and having you on Orin the journey, it's such a strong, tight sisterhood. But we are on the same wavelength here, where it's people to people. It's beyond the business. I can't even put that on a business plan, because it's a way of living life. You live for the connection. So I just wanted to share appreciation again about the event. And I had fun feeling like a fish in the pond to be me. And that's the beautiful part, where we support each other just by being. But when you told me you were doing that event, like I said, like for a second, like I'm just in, it's like, of course I'll be there. It's Claire. And, and I trust her and I trust the people who will be there. It's easy. And this is what I meant to say. This is the kind of decision you do in business when there's the relationship. But if you don't have a relationship, the trust, you look at the spreadsheet, the cost, how much it costs for the travel, who's going to be there, all the silly questions. But I think the shortcut here of like doing great business is building your relationship and connection.
Yes. I think emotion as well is a GPS, like we tend to forget it and corporations say, oh, you shouldn't be emotional, you shouldn't take it personally. I mean, but honestly, emotion is a GPS. Huh? I mean, I'm sorry, but if you don't feel something and you're doing it, it's where you have a cognitive issue and you're making yourself sick. It's like a cancer, you can be a really big problem. Huh? So please listen your emotion, do what you want to do. Huh? There is a question also about consent. Don't forget that there is a consent. If you don't want to do something, don't do it.
Yeah, the body knows the truth always, but we forgot that, especially in business world. Listen to your gut. So my gut was saying a big yes. My whole body was saying yes to come to your event. So that's why I didn't have to think too much about it. And another topic I wanted to reflect on is solopreneurship, because I've been on the same journey where I've also worked with co-founders. And I work great with partners. I work with teams, but I realized I think I had to accept this a bit like your journey, that I was, at least for this phase, this kind of business I'm doing, which is I'm enough. I like to work a lot with tight, close partners, but they are not co-founders. So I think this is the confusion sometimes. It's not because you are a solo founder that you work alone. This is a big distinction. And working with a team, working with people, with partners is still very important, but it's a very different dynamic and foundation when you are with a co-founder, and always ask yourself, like, why? But usually when people are teaming up, it's not for the right reasons to be with a co-founder, like strategic reason, but more, I don't want to do this alone, or I can't do this alone, or, I want to raise. Worst idea. It lasts for when you raise, but after it's a disaster. I'm seeing the mess after. So I think here is having the courage, like you said, to trust yourself and find your way of leading and building. And even with all the judgment, people will say, oh, it's not this and that. It's like going beyond that and say, you know what? I know myself. I've done this. I've tried this. And I know what works for me. That, I think, is the journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, honestly, also, do you really need money? Like, honestly, gaming, oh, I want to do this, I'm going to raise money. No, but why? I mean, honestly, like I'm bootstrapped and I wouldn't even think about it. I tried at the beginning and ultimately, I found some investor that would potentially be interesting and stuff, but why would you do it? Like it's like doing a loan. Like it's such a pressure. I'm not even doing it to buy my own house. So would I do it in the professional thing? Then share my revenue as well. Honestly, from all the founder I saw, it wasn't a really good story. So I think there is a lot of things that looks fancy but are not that much fancy. To be.
Yeah. Especially when you're focusing on freedom, right? And flexibility and creating the things you really want, keeping your voice. That was also a conclusion I had where let's test that theory. Can I start without external money or with, all the preconception? And then we did, so you build the path that you believe you can take and then you do it. So it's important also to show different paths here.
Yeah, and you need to prove yourself you can do it as well. Like, I think there is a lot of confidential issue as well because people think they can't do it.
Yeah. I have a few last questions before we close this conversation. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom learning, I think, here for the ones who resonate of starting their business, trying to figure out their path. Connect with other entrepreneurs that are doing different things because we get so much of that marketing of the single story. You raise, you exit, and then you talk to founders after the stories. I can tell you most of the stories are they're pretty miserable. So it's not to say that it's going to be a miserable path, but it's not as shiny as it's presented. And sometimes it was started from the wrong point because people were looking for something else, recognition, freedom, and they can be opposite of it going that path. So it's asking yourself, what is it really that you're doing? Why? and having the courage to actually listen to yourself, even if it's against the collective, I don't know, advice, wisdom, and trust your own wisdom, basically. My last question is around your personal life choice, in the sense that, when you are an entrepreneur, your personal is blended with a professional. So I'm curious also, how you shape your business and your way of working that fits also your lifestyle. I've seen so much of your content where you share about what you care about. You go to festivals, you wake up, you go by the beach, you cycle, you have a cute little dog. You wrote about also your experience. What's the name of your dog again?
Curly, she's from Guadeloupe, and yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is also why we build a business, for which kind of life we want to build. So I'd love to hear more about the life you live right now as an entrepreneur.
Yes, so I decided to come back to France. It was really important for me, the country of human rights, but I also decided to live my life in my own terms. And, guess what? It worked really well because, I have a 6-figure profitable business. I think people need to own their own life. As we shared before, we are all really lucky to be alive. I had some story of people shared that they worked in a company, their parents did a heart attack, they died and things like this. I mean, if you are an employee, for me, it doesn't make sense. You work all the weekend. It doesn't make sense, this common knowledge for me, it's not true, there is some money. You need also, to be reasonable enough and not having this big founder ego where you're like, I want to exit, I want to sell my company, so I want to do always more and so on. And I worked with so many toxic leaders related to this. You need also to be grounded to the earth and understand, what you want in life and on your own life. And even beyond entrepreneurship, it's what I wish to everyone, to know themselves enough and to know the kind of life they want. And then nothing is impossible. Some people that now do millions, they started with 1,000 invested on their business. Me, I started with 200 euros. I'm not doing more than people that are killing themselves working weekend and are employees. I think people, they need also to have clarity on what they want and take the courage to embrace their destiny. My life is the one I like, with authenticity, ethics, nature, my own values, and you could all have this. And I hope you all have this. And I'm sure some people, employees, they also have this. It's all about finding what is working for you and not what is working for the society, because the society is full of people and everyone is really different.
Yeah. And society or a company have their own agenda to impose a story on you on how life should be lived. So it's, again, trusting yourself and understanding and changing the path to what works better for you. Thank you so much for sharing, Claire. And also I wanted to share what was also the tipping point for me, where for me, it's a big topic for women leaders. We grow to a certain position, a lot of responsibility, a lot of work, a lot of stress in the body. And it was just not aligning, compatible with the way I wanted to be a mother. Like when I was imagining even a path, it's like I'm going to sacrifice that choice just so I can stay in a company. But then when I switched to thinking, what if I could free myself, that I don't have to make that choice and build a life where I could also welcome a child in my life? That's also where my motivation went, like all in entrepreneurship, to build the life that would work better for me, owning back my time when I work and how I work and who I work with, similar to you.
Yes, exactly. And this is so important because we need to remember everyone has a choice. I mean, nobody is forced to work in a corporation. I think also people need to start with accountability, because accountability is what, unfortunately, sometimes lacking.
Yeah, yeah. Is there one thing at last I didn't ask you, I should have asked, that you would like to share?
I think for men and women, it's too easy to say like we are equal. We need to remember that 60 years ago, like women were not even able to work by themselves, in France at least. We need to understand that women's rights in the world is not the same for everyone. That when you learn the history, actually, there is a lot of women that did amazing stuff that are not in the museum or in the history book. So I think it's too easy to say we are all equal, and people need as well to educate themselves. So the only thing I will say, even beyond entrepreneurship and stuff, is please educate yourself and try to understand not only the story of women, but also Black people, Asian people, colonization. I mean, there is so many things now you can have access to, and you need to go outside of your bubble. It's so important.
Yeah. And in the end, that's how we live together as a society, with compassion, right? But I agree as well, we haven't started from the same point. So we do have equal abilities, but we didn't start from an equal point. So, and different abilities, like when I say equal, but not the same. But for sure, the starting point is different. So thanks for calling it out when you need to, acknowledging it, being yourself. Keep that light, Claire. Keep that life in you. We need this. So grateful to have this conversation with you today. And I'm so excited to start soon the Orin journey with you and the group of amazing women. I can already see the synergy each of you have. And I'm just waiting for you to connect and build something maybe amazing together and shake this world, So grateful to have you.
Thank you so much, Sophie. And likewise, I think, having a good circle is really important. It's what you are doing. And it's actually the best point, I think, for anyone to start a business is to have, like the right people around them. So I'm also excited. Like my emotional GPS tell me it's going to be amazing. So I can't.
We trust the emotional GPS. Like Claire, we trust the emotional GPS. I love it. Well, I'll talk to you soon, very soon, because, that's not our last conversation. There's going to be many more, but not recorded. And congratulations again for your path and, who you are. I love, and I see Curly behind. So finally.
Yes.
Yeah. Very just popular. Very, very popular. Yeah. Well, have a great day, Claire. And thank you so much again.
Thank you, Sophie. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks for listening to this latest episode of the Rise and Play podcast. We keep growing our community of conscious leaders across the industry and beyond. If you want to join this movement, please share the podcast with other conscious leaders, because we have so much more we can learn from each other. And if you want to accelerate your growth, I offer creative leadership coaching and workshop, plus other free resources that you can find on riseandplay.io. I can't wait to connect with you. Have a great week, and remember to take care of yourself. Until the next time,